Well, good afternoon. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 30th of March, which is coming up. It's Good Friday, and so it's a long weekend. I haven't got the day off, and we're going to be working on the greenhouse. And but before I do that, we're going to take you on a little tour of the garden, and we'll just see what it's looking like for a springtime. And I might add at this point, it has been pretty chilly so far. The frost is just starting to come out of the ground, and we should be seeing some buds probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks on the trees, that is. Okay, so let's take a look at this greenhouse and we'll see what we've done so far. So as you can see, I got the rest of the supports on. This is just PVC tubing, and I put this, I guess it's 2x1 strapping on here just to give it a little bit of sturdiness along these sides. But it really is starting to take shape. You can see what it's going to look like, of course. Now, I don't know if you notice this, but I put ashes onto my garden. Not a lot. Basically, each of these quarters will get a bucket full, and I will rake that in, dig it in, and this replaces a lot of the micronutrients. And I don't know if you can see there, but there are little pieces of charcoal. And activated charcoal is an unbelievable filter. Okay, so all of these little things add to your garden, your base garden. Now I think I am going to be adding some builder's sand to this, and I might add a little bit of bentonite clay just to fill this soil out a bit. The worms definitely like the builder's sand because it helps them to digest the little bits and pieces that they find in the soil. Now, it never hurts to take a moment and just run a string down anything that you have to build that needs to be a straight line, and that string, when that's pulled taut, that's a nice straight line for you to work to, because when you have a long run like that, I'll tell you, when it is up and finished and the plastic is over, you will see if it is sloping up or sloping down. Anyway, right now it's looking pretty good. So the next phase will be to get this plastic over the hoops here, and at the front I've decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some plywood, some 4x8 sheets of plywood, and I'm going to cut that to fit that hole on either side, and I may cut a hole in that for ventilation. But I also would like to keep some of the weather out and that kind of stuff, and just sort of close it in so I can control the temperature a bit better. And of course there will be a doorway going on the front. It'll probably be a screen door, and but it'll be able to put plastic over it if I need to seal it off. Because you know what you have to remember with a greenhouse, and I have friends who have greenhouses, you cannot believe how hot and how intense that heat becomes in the inside of these places. So they need to be well ventilated. Same thing here, some ashes on this garden, and of course I've got some PVC pipe left over, and I thought I might do one of these kind of things over this, just to make a little, almost like a cold frame. But as you can imagine, there's not much happening. This is pretty early in the spring, and the raised beds have dropped down a little. I have to top those up with some hay and soil. Now this is going to be the next raised bed I'm going to repair. That's actually all going to come out, and I'm going to raise that up to 3 boards high instead of 2. And luckily I have a little bit of space on top of my antenna there, so I can actually take this up another foot or so, maybe a bit more, and so I will still be able to grow some good peas out there. I am going to plant peas this year because they're the first to go in, and they come up very, very quickly. And so I'll get my crop of peas, and then I will start to replace this bed here. And there you go, there's the first of the garlics. starting to poke their little heads through. So there is some activity. There is some activity. But not much. I don't know whether the ivy will survive. It was going crazy over there, so I transplanted it, and it looks like it hasn't fared so well. Now, of course, this is a daylily. You can see that's starting to poke its head through. And of course no asparagus as yet. That'll be a little while. Oh look, there you go, that's the dill starting to, not dill, sorry, chives. Chives starting to come through. And of course there's been no activity in the strawberry patch. But the Buddha has survived another winter. Look at that. Anyway, I'm itching to start in the garden again. Seeing that green colour is very inspirational. Now I will admit, you know, these raised beds, I made these out of spruce board, and I'm very disappointed in the outcome. They're not very strong. They rot really quickly, as you can see. Once they've rotted, you can't screw them or nail them because there's nothing to hold it on the inside. So that's why I'm switching to the hemlock. And I believe I'm going to redesign these. You know, one of the mistakes I did make, it's a 5 foot wide bed, and it should really be 4. 5 is just a little too wide to reach across, and I think I'd like the extra space between these beds so I can, you know, you don't realize when you're building these things, you know, I thought I would have lots of space. That's supposed to be a 2 foot walkway, but it really needs to be about 2.5 feet. Yep, the mint all died over the winter time, of course. It'll be coming up shortly though. And the sage. We had a funny winter this year. We had a lot of freeze and thaws going on, and that is very, very hard on plants. And of course, before these things bud, the raspberries, I will be in to trim these down. Now the rule of thumb is, I'm sure you can see there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim out those 2 largest canes and any dead stuff. I'm going to do that to every plant, and that's what you should do every year, is you take out 2 or 3 of the largest canes, and that will keep your crop nice and healthy. Anyway, it survived the winter, my netting and cover, so I'm pretty pleased with that. And yes, we'll be getting in there to do some work. Okay, so I have been through the raspberries and I trimmed them all back. I had an extra couple of minutes, so I just nipped the tops off, and I've taken out the 2 or 3 largest stems of the raspberry plants, and I've left these 2 till the very end so that you can see what it is that I'm doing. Okay, so this is definitely the one I'm going to be taking out, and just there we go. Now I'm going to leave this one looks dead. I'll trim that out. Okay, so I've left 1, there was 2 there, I've left 1. Now I'm going to nip away these edges here because they grow into the netting, and that bugs the living daylights out of me. So you can see down here there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm going to take this one. And of course you can tell, because that's nice and green there, that's alive, that's a good healthy plant. And I'm going to take this one. And of course what you can do is you can take a cutting at one of these nodes here, just right at the base, and put some root stimulator on that, and that will grow into a new raspberry plant. Raspberries are absolutely unbelievable, they're prolific, and that's all I'm going to take off that one. That leaves us 3 nice healthy stems, and of course I just nip a little bit off the top, just take some of that dry dead stuff off, so it's ready to go. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this bed. It doesn't get quite enough sunshine. I've tried, the squash didn't do too bad, and the zucchini didn't do too bad, but it's a good growing stand. The beans didn't like it. Maybe I'll try some peas in here this year and see how they do. And of course these, I don't know if you can see those green shoots there, those are Egyptian onions. They're the first onions to come through, and they are great in sandwiches. Oh, and just a little by the by here, these are rolls of chicken wire that I've collected off people who were throwing them out, or I found them in yard sales or people's barns, and this is a scavenger type of item, and I just put it in the corner here. It's galvanized so it doesn't rust, it lasts a good long while, and boy oh boy can you use that wire for just about anything to grow up, anything to climb up. And so there you go. Scavenging is good, free is good. We like free, we like exchange, we like barter. Compost, lots of soil there for the springtime, and you will notice that I put that up on a skid and put wire down. This wire, there's just chicken wire right here, and that allows this to drain so it doesn't get too wet. And I'm hoping that in the center of that compost pile there is still a little heat action going on. It's amazing how bacteria can keep that temperature up. Well, we used up quite a bit of wood, but there is still some left. I won't be using all of this year, and I will be filling this spot up early spring. Ta-da! Ready for plastic. And of course you have to get UV resistant plastic, or it'll just turn to dust. And I got these beds raked over, ready to go. Doesn't take long. This is a busy time of year in the garden. So there you go, Hound Dog Steve signing off from the spring garden update, very early spring garden update, and some of the chores that you can get onto before the frost is even barely out of the ground. You take care, you have a great week, happy Easter, and we'll talk to you real soon. See ya.